Hello everybody, it's Keith. Help support the Northeast scene and declare yourself a member today. Subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts or your podcast medium of choice. Rate us and leave a review. Every little bit helps. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. It has every podcast episode plus other exclusive content. Like and leave a comment. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter at TheNEScene. Also, continue to write us at northeastscene@gmail.com. We want to share your experiences as well. And now, here's the show.
Fear is normal. But stop worrying about it and about yourselves. Stop making plans. Forget about going home. Consider yourselves already dead. Once you accept that idea, it won't be so tough.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Northeast Scene Podcast. This is Keith.
And Tommy.
How's everybody doing? Tonight on the show, we are going to have our friend, engineer, producer, musician, and all-around wonderful person, Bill Sullivan. So you'll hear some stories from back in the day, and you'll hear how he went from being a nice young man from Bucks County to moving out to California to work with the likes of Kanye West and Kid Cudi. I mean, come on.
Yeah. Dude, he's so rad. He's such a nice kid. Like, Bill is such a nice dude. I can't wait to get him on.
I know, and I'm really interested in his story. One, because I know him, but I don't know the story. And two, I don't know, like, the whole sound engineering thing on a very basic level is something I want to get into. So I think he'll be able to provide some interesting insight into that whole thing.
Yeah, Bill's one of those people that I remember when I first met him. Bill is really smart and very, very articulate. And I remember he and I shared the bond of we're both super into like heavy metal, like not like
yes.
like death, like more death metal than anything else. Like incantation and suffocation, all the Asians, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think he's very much more on the metal side of things, which is one of the things I wanted to ask him, because I don't remember seeing him at a ton of shows.
So he had a couple bands that I remember him playing with, but it was always Bill was the orchestrator of everything. Bill sang, Bill played guitar. Bill kind of had hired guns around him a lot of times, and then sometimes he would just he was friendly with a lot of the guys from Heinous Anus and stuff like that, so he would bring those guys on to kind of like fill in with stuff, I think. But yeah, Bill was also one of my first real vivid memories of him was like bonding over metal, and he was so excited to show me. He wrote a paper for school about censorship in music, but his examples were things like Cannibal Corpse. There was a weed kind of doom stoner band called Exit 13. I think they were on Relapse for a little bit. But he used there was first of all, it was extremely well written. The other thing was he included clip art, or not clip art, but like pictures of the actual album covers. And I remember being like 15 or 16 being like, wow, this kid's fucking smart. Like, cause he's not only like a metalhead, but like he's able to talk about it well, like he's able to speak about it in a way that his teacher was clearly impressed with it. Because I remember he got a really good grade on it too.
My first year of college, I wrote a paper about Cave-In's change of sound from Until Your Heart Stops to Creative Eclipses.
How'd that work out?
I think I got a good grade. Good. And in a turn of events, the teacher of that class ended up marrying my aunt years later.
Really?
Yeah.
Where I refresh my memory. Where did you go to college?
I did 2 semesters at Bucks County Community, and then I did 1 semester at East Stroudsburg, and then I dropped out.
That's where Kelly went.
Yeah, makes sense. She lives right there.
Yeah.
All right, so Tommy and our dear audience, you remember that I was talking about preparing for this project management professional exam, right?
I recall it dearly. We've spoken about it at length beyond the podcast.
Yes. Well, today I took the test and I have the result. Are you ready to hear this?
You gotta be fucking kidding me.
I took the exam. It was a 4.5-hour exam.
Oh my God.
That I had to sit for. And I could not get up the whole time. And I had to sit there and slog through this thing. And I have the result. Are you ready?
I've been ready.
To hear the result of the exam.
What exam is it? Get the fuck out of here.
I passed the exam.
Yo! Congratulations, dude. I'm so happy for you. God damn.
I can't believe it. Well, let me lay out the land for you. Let me cue up some heroic music here.
God damn it, Gump, you're a goddamn genius.
So, this all started years ago, actually. Back in 2016. And I tried to get CAPM, which is one level below PMP. Same material, it's just a little less work. I failed that exam twice. I just wasn't ready to study. I wasn't ready to prepare for it. I didn't have sufficient time. There's a lot of factors at play. So in 2018, I got Project Plus, which is another project management certification. All right, so this year I started preparing for the big one. Took the class in March, started studying somewhat regularly in the summer, and then really started grinding away in fall. And I took the exam today. It was a 4.5-hour exam. You have to sit there the whole time. You cannot get up. You cannot cover your mouth. I got in trouble for doing that. You cannot write anything down. There's only an awkward whiteboard to use on the exam, and it was fucking brutal. It was like, remember when we talked to Anthony? Like, it was like sitting for that whole interview, including the prelude and the post conversation where we waited for the files to upload, like the whole time, no bathroom break, no nothing. And I was so fucking crazy during this thing. I felt like I was going to fail. I took a practice exam this past Saturday, and I did horribly. And I was like, that's it. I'm not going to pass. And everyone's telling me, no, you're going to be fine. You've been doing the work. You'll be fine. And I was like, no. Like, I don't want to hear these positive affirmations. I'm looking at actual statistics that are telling me I'm not going to pass. So I said to Romy, I'm like, you have mystical powers. Come on, help me pull off a miracle here. And, I pulled a lot of favors, and I asked people to keep me in their thoughts and help out, and I passed. I didn't know if I would. I had no idea how I was doing when I was taking this exam, and then I clicked submit, and I saw that I passed, and I was like, holy shit, I got it. It's done. And putting away... I filled a whole notebook with notes, and putting away that notebook and the textbook and the pamphlets and all that shit today felt so good. And I was like, I'm done. It's done. And I feel high because I have so much free time now.
And you're ready to...
I have no idea what I'm going to do with all of it. Actually, I do, but...
You're ready to go fucking manage some projects, dude. That's what you're ready to do.
Well, I'm actually getting out of that field.
Fuck you. I don't even...
It's useful skills, so that's good, and it legitimizes me, and it's great on my resume. It's the top project management certification, but they're sort of moving me into a new area. I will still be doing project management, but if everything works out, not as my primary function.
That's pretty cool, man.
Yeah, so
not pretty cool. That's it. I'm really, with stuff like this, I'm insanely proud of when people put their time aside and they push themselves to that kind of limit of like what you can do. And this is one of those things that, like, you did it, man. Like, I'm so unbelievably, and this sounds corny, but I'm really proud of you.
I'm glad. I thank you. I kept thinking of you and the math exam, and how you had to take it right before you went on vacation, and how you passed it, and you're like, it's done. And I wanted that same feeling. Like, this thing is done. All I got to do is record this podcast tonight, and then I don't have to do shit until Monday when I go back to work.
Well, let's go fucking buy some dope.
Don't tempt me.
Let's get this fucking party started. Let's go.
Another thing, Yeah, but during the class, I think the teacher was like a right-wing guy because he was like really fetishizing the military and police and stuff. And then at one point he used the term snowflakes during the class, which actually really pissed me off. I wasn't, but I got past it, and, he's like, oh, write a draft in your email and, congratulating me, or write a draft in your email thanking me for the class, and when you pass the exam, send me the email, like something to that effect. So I wrote the draft because I'm like, I want this thing. This is something I've never felt like I was going to be able to do. Let me do this. Let me will this into existence.
There you go.
But then after like the right wing, kind of stuff, I was like, I'm not writing this guy. Forget it. So I go back into the draft to delete the email.
Yeah.
And then I remember that this guy has cancer. Like he told us during the class that he has cancer.
Is he like terminal?
I don't remember.
You can have like skin cancer. you can have like a melanoma that just gets removed, and then you can have fucking like non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
I think he may have been on chemo. I'm not sure.
Ooh, that's not good.
But I looked at the email and I was like, oh shit. Like, all right, so I don't agree with this guy. And he used a term that I'm not crazy about, but fuck, let me write him the email. So I sent him the email. I mean, I'm fucking happy that I passed this test. I have this certification now. All I have to do is maintain it, and that's pretty easy. And it was eight months of brutal hard work and stress and driving everybody around me crazy.
I will say, or I actually had a question. So,
yes.
Did that channel or communication channels question come up on it? The one I texted you about?
No, but I wrote down that formula after you texted that to me because I was like, fuck, this is one of the formulas I didn't memorize.
I get obsessed with stuff like that. When people are like, I'm studying for a test, I have always been super interested in how tests are made, how, especially standardized ones. Like, I think it's fascinating. But as soon as Keith was like, yeah, I'm taking this test, there's a ton of like prep materials. I was like, I need to go and see some of these questions. So I literally just typed it in on YouTube, and they do that thing where they're like, hey, pause. Here's the first question. Pause the video here, and we'll give you, time to answer. And so I took 10 questions. I got a 70. But the questions I got wrong, I got 2 of them wrong. It was about channels of communication, and it was like a total mathematics formula. It was n times the quantity of n minus 1 divided by 2. N is the number of people involved in the project. And I texted it to Keith, and he never answered me back, and I was like, oh no, he's pissed. No, you did answer me back at the first thing. You were like, fuck, I don't even know what that formula is.
Bro, I haven't been communicating with many people. I haven't done anything,
but it's worth it. Now it's done, dude. Fucking A.
Yeah, and now I can go back and listen to all the best albums of 2020, and my whole Spotify year wrapped is just lo-fi hip-hop beats, because that's what I listened to when I was studying. That's it. I
destroyed that World Has Post-Rock channel when I was studying for my math tests.
Yeah.
Like, that was just, I would just put that on and just let it play.
Yeah.
There was so many times where I'd just put, find a playlist and just be like, let's just do with this. Let's go with this. As long as it wasn't too loud or too noisy, I could just work with it.
Well, anyway, it's done, and I already have my next projects lined up. One, a new band. Well, I don't want to reveal too much yet, but hopefully rehearsals will begin next week.
Nice.
And I'm going to learn a song on piano.
What are you going to learn?
The first song from the Smashing Pumpkins double album.
I don't know. What song is it?
I don't know. It's called like Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness, I think.
Oh, okay. All right, that one. Okay.
The first song. The very first song on the first disc. Check it out.
I have to think. Yeah, because I keep thinking about that, and it's like, I know a lot of the hits off that record, but I don't know them track by track. So I'll have to listen to it after the show.
It's a beautiful piano song. And I'm going to learn the whole thing. It's going to take a long time.
I was going to say, I always learn like a piano thing. I learn like the one part that I want to learn, and I ignore the rest of the song. So
yeah, I learned one part okay enough to like film me playing it to post on Instagram, and then I'm done.
I don't even do that. I just do it enough so that I know it, and then there's my classroom when I'm leaving my classroom to go to the parking lot. I walk past the music room, and usually by the end of the day, there's nobody there, so I can just go in and play piano in there for a couple minutes. So I'll just go in and play in there, and I always kind of secretly hope someone is like, "Hey, you're all pretty good at piano." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm not though."
I've had people do that to me, and it's the best feeling because I can't even play. But I want to learn.
Yeah, I can't. I can play the piano break, like the first 30 seconds of the piano break from Derek and the Dominoes' Layla, and I only learned it because I wanted to. Like, I saw that scene in Goodfellas, and I was like, "Fuck, that's such a great part." Where like the Frenchie's like getting flipped over in the dumpster or in the back of the garbage truck, and it's like that piano break starts. This is such a good part of the movie, and I was like, I want to learn how to play that, and it's a lot of just like octaves. So I was like, dude, I can totally. I looked at the sheet music for it, and I don't read sheet music, so I was like, fuck, what am I looking at this for? Like, I just need to see somebody playing it, and I went on YouTube and I watched somebody play it, and I do that thing where you do the change the playback speed, and I just watch their fingers and just mimic what they're doing.
Yeah. That's the same thing I do.
And I just do it enough times so that I remember it.
Repetition is key. All right, so we're going to talk to Bill now. Here we go. All right, folks, we're here now with Bill Sullivan. Bill, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Oh, yes. It's wonderful to have you here. And you're our first guest of 2021. How does that feel?
That feels really good, man. It's cool. Like, I listen to this all the time, and listening to it like kind of brings me back to when we were like running around doing shows and stuff. So it's really nice to hear all these stories. When Bob's stories were giving me nightmares, because like I remember being the problem in some of them.
Oh my god!
Like what?
The fest he did, Okay, Come On Kids Fest, when everyone was in the office drinking the beer. I'm pretty sure that was me and the dudes in Unearth. And yeah, I remember like what was his name? Stan, or not Stan, the guy that ran the place. He came in the door and was really pissed, and Bob was like, "Everyone out of here." So I was always that guy bringing beer and stuff to shows, getting yelled at. And I apologize for that. I don't do that shit anymore.
Yeah, me too. There was some legendary parties in the parking lot of that place.
Oh yeah, definitely. A lot of legendary stuff at Polanca. Like my and then there's pictures from like my christening that was at Polanca Park. So it's just like hilarious to see that place and like know what has happened there.
Like Catholic christening, it took place at Polanca Park?
I think it was at Queen, and then they did like the after party at Polanca.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's how I remember first seeing you, like at church. Because like good Catholic boys, we would be at church every Sunday.
Yeah, you guys got to give the backs. You guys grew up in the same goddamn neighborhood in Levittown.
And I moved back there like in between my times in New York, and commuted to New York every day for months.
Oh shit. So you lived in Quincy Hollow too?
Yeah, I was right on the drive. My parents' house was like right in front of that big hill that people used to go down.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was like, there was always something going on out front. And then I guess I was like in my late 20s. I moved back for like 3 years I forget the road, but as soon as you turn in that first left, and I was like, how did I end up back in the neighborhood I grew up in? Like, what did I do? And I got out of there quick. Then I moved in with Cipriano in Brooklyn. That was really fun.
Yes, I remember. So I do want to talk about your moving up to New York and California and getting involved with engineering and all that stuff, because I don't know how it went down, and it sounds like it would be a great story.
Yeah, it kind of, it started with the scene that we were all in, just doing our own shows, and that kind of gave me the work ethic, that DIY work ethic. I took that up to New York, started running a studio. Like I interned there for less than a year.
Which studio?
It was a post-production studio called Jecko Music on 45th and 6th. And then when I came in, I kind of like ran it during the day, and then when everyone went home at night, I would record like hip hop records and like metal records in there, and people would come in the next day and be like, yeah, the guys on floor 9 said there was all kinds of racket. I'm like, oh, I don't know what that was. So no clue.
So let's talk about our early days in the now legendary Bucks County scene. Bill, I guess I first remember seeing you in Womb of Azor. Was that your first band?
Yeah. It's funny, like I was talking to my parents and they brought that stuff up. But yeah, I I think 12 to 15. I was in that band.
Tell us a little bit about that band.
That I don't even know how it started. It was like, I remember for my birthday, I asked for my parents, like, there was a pawn shop that had this awesome, like, guitar, BC Rich Warlock. I really wanted it. And they were like, hell no. So I think either the day of my like 12th birthday or something, they came home with this like brand new drum machine that was clearly like falling off the back of a truck. And I just started like figuring that thing out. At the same time, James Gannon's brother, his older brother, Jack, was in this black metal band called Deteriorate. Mm-hmm. So I skipped everything. I went straight from like Metallica to like super underground black metal at like age 12. So my parents were probably like freaking out. But this thing had keyboards on it. It had like 3 keyboard tracks and drum machine. Took care of like that. I just started like programming and playing stuff. Got my 2 friends, Eric and Dan, to join, and we just started playing. And I don't think very many people liked us. It was like,
you know what?
The room would have like 50 people in it, and then like by the time we were done, there's like 7. Like people just like what the hell was that sound with this kid running around swinging his guitar?
You know what? You guys were outliers in the scene. I don't think people could process the drum machine and the fact that you weren't just a run-of-the-mill hardcore band. Like anything that did not fit that typical emotional hardcore sound of the late 90s, I wouldn't listen to. Even like, you know, bands like Womb of Azor, Boz Henna, I wouldn't watch at the time. Like I was stuck on one particular sound. And I think a lot of people were at that time.
Yeah, I was the same way about like death metal and like just like brutal music. It was like that and that only. Like everything else is like not my thing. So yeah, very narrow-minded, but you know, we all grow out of that and expand.
Exactly.
Yeah, Bill was like my friend that I was like, yo, let's geek out about metal. I was actually talking to Keith about this. I remember one of the first times I hung out with you. We were up in your room and we were just listening to records, right? And you were so excited to show me you had written a paper for school about censorship. And you had all these, like all of your references in the paper were about things like, you know, Cannibal Corpse albums being banned. Do you remember that band Exit 13?
Oh yeah, they're like that was like one of my first crossover favorites, you know.
And I remember like looking at this paper, and your teacher wrote like a really nice thing at the end of it, gave you a really great grade. And I'm like looking through it, and it's just all pictures of like, you know, the cover from Vile, or like the Exit 13. I forget what was it, Gabong or like a weed leaf. The cover was like something like, it was like heavily drug influenced things, and it was just like all these, you know, kind of like at the time very edgy kind of things, and it was like, oh shit, like Bill's smart.
Yeah, I remember I ran with that Exit 13 shit and wrote a paper on, like, they were all about hemp and like being vegan and stuff. They were like way ahead of the curve. Like this is like 89, 90 when they were doing that shit. Wow. And I ended up like writing a paper on like hemp and using a lot of like their references, because they would put like, we read this in this book, like in their liner notes. So I'd go back and like read these books and like write these papers in school. Like, I don't even know. I did really well in school, but I was writing about all this shit. And I'm like, what were these teachers thinking about me? Like, this is insane.
I always thought it was funny was when I got I remember I got a Cannibal Corpse CD from Positively Records in Levittown, and they had a little thing at the end of the liner notes that was how to contact the people from NORML, the National Organization for the Reformation of Marijuana Laws. Yeah. And I remember like I even mailed it from like not near my house so my mom wouldn't see it. And then when it came in the mail, my mom was like, what the fuck is this? Like, why would you? And my mom threw it out. And I remember I like dug it out of the garbage and I had it up in my room. And it was literally just like, they sent me like, you know, pamphlets and paperwork and stuff like that to be like, hey, join our organization. And it was like, I didn't have any money as a kid anyway, but I was just like, and I didn't even smoke weed. I was just like, I was so into it. I was like, dude, Corpse is into it. I'm fucking into it. Whatever this is. Like,
yeah, you know, I have to admit, I'm completely clueless on the real metal side of things that you guys love. Like, I just don't know a lot about it or listen to a lot of it. But there was this guy who lived on my block who just seemed like the coolest dude. He drove this car that had an upside down cross sticker on the back, and he wore Cannibal Corpse shirts, and he had like long hair and dressed in all black. And I was like, man, this guy is cool. And I would go to Positively Records and look at the Cannibal Corpse artwork and be like, oh my God, this is crazy.
Yeah, man. And it's funny, like some of their covers are like you can't even get the original ones anymore. Like the Bleeding cover, it's like so difficult to find an original copy.
You know what I had? My mother took it away from me. Bill, you remember the original cover for God, it was Deicide's Not Once Upon the Cross. Was it once? Maybe it was Once Upon the Cross.
Once Upon the Cross is Jesus under the sheet with the blood stain. Yeah, yeah, man.
And you would open it, and the interior was like a bucket with like a portion of the rib cage in it. It looked like there was an autopsy being done on Christ. And my mother lost her shit. Like she was like, why do you have this stuff? And it was literally like, it was right after that whole satanic panic thing of like, your kids are going to start worshiping the devil, and Judas Priest is going to, and it's like, dude, first of all, I don't like Judas Priest. They're corny. Like I never got that. Like when people are like, I'm into metal, and I'm like, really? And they're like, Judas Priest is awesome. I'm like, I don't get it. Like I remember hearing like, do you remember Beavis and Butthead used to play Breaking the Law? Like that was like the one thing they did, like a whole episode was like just a bunch of like heavier metal bands on it, and they played the video for Breaking the Law, and I was like, wait a minute, this isn't heavy. Like, when I would always see somebody with like a Judas Priest patch on their back, I'm like, dude, that guy's badass. And then I listened to Judas Priest, and I was like, I don't like this. But in the same episode, they played Carcass, and I was like, fuck, dude, I'm super hype on this. Like, I have to go find everything Carcass now.
Yeah, that was the best about Beavis and Butthead. Like, seeing, like, At the Gates, Carcass, Corpse. Like, there was a bunch of... I think Helmet was on there a couple times. Like, it was pretty rad.
Yeah, that's where I discovered a lot of that good music through that show.
Yeah, like that 120 minutes. Like I remember, it was awesome staying up super late watching Matt Pinfield and like Ricky Rackman. Like, it's awesome.
That's right, dude. God, Headbangers Ball with Ricky. But that's the funny part is like I remember still watching Headbangers Ball and being like, all right, like 50% of this is just terrible. Like I don't like any of this. Like they would play stuff like Jackal with a Y, and you're like, what the fuck is this? This guy's fucking playing a chainsaw. I don't want to listen to this. Like, this is so dumb. It was like one step above Ted Nugent. I was like, I don't get this. Like, this is not what I came here for. And then they would play At the Gates or Carcass or what was the one that I remember I saw it and I was like
I think Cathedral was on
Cathedral.
Yeah.
Then I remember they played, you remember that band Candlemass? They played Candlemass, and I was like, oh, this is awful. Like I don't like this at all. And the video was like really bad. It was like them and out in the woods with like a coffin, and there was like all these like candles lit. And I was like, okay, this is clearly something that went way over my head and I don't get it, or it's just not my thing. Like and I used to see people with shirts on like that and be like, really?
Yeah.
Like, I used to see like one of the Jackass dudes, Ryan Dunn used to wear one all the time. He would have a Candlemass shirt and be like, dude, they stink. Like, I fucking hate that band. That band's terrible.
Yeah, there was this thing in like the late 90s, early 2000s when like grind and doom bands got this like super hippie influence and just started like wearing bell bottoms and like doing shit like that. And I just wasn't into any of that. And I even saw like, I think one of the dudes, I think it may be Bam, has like an anathema tattoo across his throat. And I was God. Wow, man, that's some real dedication to that band. Like, cool.
Yeah. Not a band I would dedicate anything to, but good for
I
you.
can't lie. Like, I do like, I think two Anathema albums, but they're like older. But man, I don't know if I'd get a tattoo. Damn.
Well, I definitely wouldn't. I can tell you that much. I don't think I've ever even heard of Anathema, but all right, I'm redirecting us here. So, Bill, were you more on the strictly metal side of things? Were you at a lot of the shows, like This Day Forward shows and the Life Once Lost shows and all that stuff?
Yeah, like just because of like our age, there weren't a lot of other like metalheads. They were like 12 to 15, so we just like me and the dudes that I was hanging out with naturally fell in. Like we grew up, with the same people, Gary and Mike and all them. So I think it was just more. We were on to like these extreme things that weren't normal. So we just kind of fell into the hardcore metal scene in Bucks. Cause there was like a straight metal scene, but it was all older dudes. And it was really like, traditional death metal. Like,
yeah.
So we weren't really like accepted. I remember we played Pirates Den once when I was in the band Upon Creation, and our singer Johannes was, from Africa, and there was everyone in that place was just looking at us like, we cannot wait for you to leave. Like, you are not welcomed here. And then, like, I think like a month later, the place burned down. It was like a super uncomfortable show. We played with Rumpelstiltskin Grinder, if you remember them.
Oh yeah, that dude Eli, right?
Yep. Yeah. It was funny. It was funny, like, looking back at those shows, like, just like all the awkward shows we played, just because, like, I was kind of going over this. I don't have the best memory, but I was like, man, we played like a lot of awkward, like, high school shows where we definitely, like, people were just like, what is this band? What are they doing? It was so confusing. So, yeah, but I guess around 15, I abandoned that drum machine and we started using real players.
Do you find that a lot of people in bands just have bad attitudes a lot of the time? Like, I would play gigs with people that I knew, that I've known for years, and then we would get to the show and they would act like they didn't know me or act like too cool. And I'm like, really? Like, we brought more people here than you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I was the best band member. I was probably one of those people, just because looking back, like, I was in so many bands for such like weird short increments of time, hopping around. Like, I just feel like some of my dedication may not have been there, but it was like really cool to be in those bands, and I wish I would have put a little more forward. So I may have been that guy that had a little bit of an attitude.
Yeah. I mean, I still have an attitude, just about other stuff, I guess. So another one of your bands, I actually saw you perform when you were in this band, Heinous Anus. Now, we've gotten quite a few requests for that demo through this site.
Well, so I was never really in Heinous Anus. I used to like sing. There was like, because they had the two singer thing going.
Yeah. I saw one of those, and you were like crawling, you were like climbing on the ceiling somehow, like upside down and doing head banging and stuff.
Yeah. I used to, like, just like, I was a fan of Dillinger and all stuff like that. So watching those dudes do really dangerous things, like, got me excited. So I would do stuff like that. But Heinous was like, they were all like my good friends in high school, but they were also like the friendly competition, because like they practiced at the one guitarist Adrian's house, and we practiced, I think, like 2 or 3 doors down at my friend Jeff's house, who played drums and that's the house you were at, Tommy.
Yeah.
So Jeff Stieber, who was in Hull, the doom metal band.
I was trying to think of his name. I was like, you know what? Bill's gonna come on. Bill will know. But like, yeah, you know what was always nice about Heinous Anus? They were first of all, the best musicians in the area that were like technically proficient.
Yeah. And they were hammered the entire time, which is why they were my competition.
There was a point in time where, like, so one of the times that I was kind of just blown away by watching someone play music was Adrian just fucking shredding. And here's the crazy part. He had like kind of like curlier long hair. Yeah. It was completely in front of his face. He was absolutely not looking at the fretboard and just fucking shredding, like sweep picking, string skipping, like crazy shit. And I was like, how is he this good? Yeah. And then you would see him fucking get wasted right after that. Like, and he was like, no, I get like this all the time. And you're like, holy shit, dude. Like, holy cow. Like, he was just constantly out of his mind, but just an amazing musician.
Man. Like everyone in that band, it was like, that's what I always like looked at them like, oh, we got to be better than those dudes. And like, so much pressure. So like years later, when like John, the one singer, and Tom, the drummer, when we got together and started doing Architects for a Broken Design, I was psyched. I was like, yes, I got my dream band finally. Like,
so what happened with that band?
Well, everything I was involved Upon Creation and Architects of a Broken Design are like projects now, because I'm out here. And even when I was in New York, it was like we'd send files back and forth to each other, and just put stuff together. I probably haven't played live in like, it's probably like 10 years now. We still, like, Upon Creation has an album, EP coming out on January 22nd. So that'll be pretty cool. So like everything's still going. Architects put out an album in March, right before the pandemic.
Tell me about this band, because I don't even think I heard them back in the day.
Well, I think it started probably like around 03, 05-ish. And it was like a bunch of different lineups. We're still doing stuff now. We put out a album in, I think, March. It's called Total Collapse. I've released it on my label. I have like a indie digital label called Wreckinjoint Recordings. But yeah, it was awesome. Like, so for a while it was Tom, me playing guitar, my friend Noah, who I work with a lot today. He was the DJ / keyboard player. We had a bass player who played like a 6-string, and then we had the 2 singers also. We had John Costello, who was the one dude in Heinous that did like the high stuff. And then we also had this guy named Mark that was doing like low stuff, but he was only with us for a little bit. But it sucked because like every time, again, we'd go to like these places, we played these shows, people would see me come in with like a 7-string, and then they see like a DJ and they're like, oh, like this is some Limp Bizkit bar metal bullshit, you know? And then like, you know, half the room will clear out, and then we just like rip. And like, this is one band, like Upon Creation and Architects of Broken Design, they're definitely bands that I'll stand behind and say like, we played our asses off, like did everything we could. We just like, it just never caught on. But we still do stuff, and it's fun because considering like I'm busy doing all these like recordings out here, it's nice to get back to metal and like let some sort of like cathartic aggression thing happen, you know. So
absolutely, it's still my dream to somehow sing in a hardcore band one day. So I don't know, maybe it'll happen in my 40s.
Maybe. I like every show like you try to start a new project too. I love it.
Oh yeah, I'm really trying to get something going.
Yeah, you're gonna have a lot of bands going on soon. In 2021, you're gonna like that whole fest you're gonna do. You're gonna be like in 7 of the bands.
I mean, I hope so. That's my dream.
Yeah, man. And by the way, I'm psyched about the potential Audience of One This Day Forward world tour. That's gonna be awesome.
Yo, we have to make the Bucks County Fest happen potentially at Palanca Park.
Yes, we got to take those chandeliers down. You know, foolproof the place. Make sure nothing happens. Like,
oh, I thought you meant like take the chandelier down.
Oh yeah, take it down so no one can rip it down.
Nobody puts their fucking sweatshirt around it and swings from the goddamn thing.
Dude, so many times. Like I used to work at Today's Man, and I would get all the hangers. And so many times, like I got those hangers specifically for the chandeliers at Palanca because I knew I'd be going to a show that weekend. Some like numbskull's gonna jump up and rip it down, and then like one of us is gonna have to climb up and secure this thing so we don't like lose the deposit or whatever.
Tell us, Bill, how did you get involved in? Now, is audio engineering and recording, producing, and all that that's your primary gig, right?
Yeah, that's it, man. Like it kind of all started when I moved to Philly. I always knew I wanted to be in music, so I was playing in bands, and as I was getting at, like nothing really popped off. So when I got to Temple, I tried out to be a music major. I played violin in high school. I was classically trained. So I was like, all right, you know, let's try that. That'll be cool. Mm-hmm. I was awful. And every kid in this audition just like blew me away. I was just like, all right, this is not for me. So I took a semester of doing like liberal arts, and through that I found their communications department. And then I was like, oh, all right, you know, like this is cool. And that's kind of how I got into recording, was like that department at Temple, you know, showed me like I was interested in audio. I just didn't know anything. Like the first time I recorded was at Skylight. And I thought it was like magic. I was like, how did the numbers get on the cables? And how, when you push that button, how does this happen? Like, what's going on? And then like at Temple, I was like, all right, cool. Like, you know, like I can do this. Like, this is awesome. Maybe this is why I was never like a good bandmate, because I wasn't supposed to be in that band for that amount of time. Maybe it's just like I do my thing and then they move on. Yeah. So through that program, that's where like I met my best friend Noah, and we met like around 19. And to this day, we still work together. You know, he was Kanye West's chief engineer for like 8-9 years. After that, he went over to Columbia as a head A&R, but he would always bring me along on stuff. So like I was saying, when I moved to New York, I had that studio on 45th and 6th. He started working with Kanye. And he just needed an extra hand. Since it was my studio, I could just like leave whenever I want, record people. And it kind of just snowballed, man. Yeah, Temple really opened that up for me. Like between me and then learning from Noah, and then my friend Paul, who goes under the name Starkey. He teaches at CCB now, or CCP, Community College of Philly. And we just kind of like figured it all out ourselves. And then like after a semester, they made us the TAs. So I'm not sure how much kids learned off us, but I was like, all right, I guess like we know something if they're putting us in charge.
But you finished a master's, right?
I did not. Noah went for his master's. I stayed for my bachelor's, and then like I stuck around Philly for like a year, maybe 2 years before moving to New York. Because I worked out of Studio 4, where everyone goes, and it was at a weird time where when I was there, we had the 2 floors. We were upstairs and downstairs, so we'd record upstairs. It was a huge room. It was awesome. And then that kind of got taken out from under the owner's legs and moved downstairs. And after that, like I wasn't getting a lot of work, so I worked at the Troc for a little bit doing sound upstairs and being a bar back. And it was just like, this isn't what I wanted. So I just rolled the dice. I think on a Monday, I decided I was moving to New York, and like that Wednesday, I was like in New York.
What year was that?
I would have probably been like 22, 23. It was like I was probably 23 because it was like 2 years after college.
So it had to be like 2003, 2004, something like that.
Yeah, because like I interned, I was commuting from Philly to New York for a year as an intern, and like after that year, that's when I started like taking over stuff. And then production started coming along, where I started writing a lot of music for like Disney shows, like the Power Rangers. We launched Disney XD with the show called Aaron Stone. So it was weird. Like I did like children's music during the day and then like brutal metal at night.
How do you get that gig writing songs for Disney shows? How does that come about?
Man, like everything that I've done, I feel like has just kind of landed in my lap as I like stumble along life. It was like a friend of mine, my friend Lisa from high school, like applied to be the secretary, and she didn't get hired, but she was like this. I had applied, I think, to 200 in some places out of college just to do anything audio related, and no one got back to me. So I sent them my resume. They called me up. I went up there for an interview, and like they like brought me on that day. So as I was interning, the Power Rangers thing came about. Like I think someone forgot to do their cues, or like was late handing in their cues, and we had to deliver. And I was like, I could just like do something real quick to like cover our asses. And they're like, oh, you do that? I was like, wow, you really read my resume. Cool. I'm glad that worked out. So I did the like one episode, and they're like, oh yeah, you really can do this. All right, you're on the team now. And then I think I did 3 seasons of that before it went back to Saban.
It's almost like fate. I mean, right place, right time. You speak up, and you get it done.
Yeah, exactly, man. And that's the same thing like with like the good music stuff and Kanye and all. It was just like I was just there, and they were like, "Can you do this?" And whether I could or not, I would just be like, "Yeah," and I'd figure it out.
I think that's a big part of it, and that's kind of my approach too. Like with this podcast, I didn't know how to do anything. I didn't know anything about recording, multi-track edits. I didn't know any of it, and I just learned it and figured it out, and I'm like, all right, we got to get it up by this date, so I'm going to get it done. Those initial recordings for Power Rangers, what do? Do you play like all the instrumentation?
Yeah, you just do everything. So like the way we would do it, we'd have like a team of like 5 different kinds of writers, and you'd get assigned different characters. So like I got most of the villains because I played all the heavier music, and then everyone did their thing. You'd write the theme, and then I'd like kind of log it, and I'd have that theme. I'd have all the separate parts, and then towards like the middle of the season, you would be able to take the different themes and stuff and just kind of like remix them, so you wouldn't have to constantly be writing. Yeah, and it was just like that's how it is. Like everyone had to do everything on their own. I would hire singers on certain things because I would do like the source music, like the fake stuff they would listen to on the radio. Yeah, and it was basically like parodies of songs that were all like popular at the time that they couldn't afford. But yeah, that was it. Like this guy Dan Avidan that I met in Philly, like he ended up moving to New York. He was a great singer, and I could call him up in a moment and just be like, can you come over? You would come over and bang out like 2-3 songs, and that was that. And honestly, like that was a great thing living in New York in my early 20s. Like I was getting paid really well. So I was able to like live comfortably, have a little studio, but like also do all this crazy metal shit, and like fund it, because like there really was no money in it.
Yeah, that's the dream. Early 20s, New York City, working a good paying gig. I mean, that's it. That's everything.
Yeah, it was awesome. Like, and it came with like certain things I had to leave. Like, but part of the reason I left New York is like, everything's available at all times, like anywhere. So, it's like whatever you wanted to get in at any point, you could do it. And that was like a little too tempting. So, now I'm out here chilling.
Did you have struggles? Now, I have some well-documented struggles on this podcast. I got in way too deep and I had to stop doing everything forever.
Well, that's good. Like I haven't towards the end of New York, I was trying to stop drinking, and I stopped. I'd stop, and then like a couple months go by. But now I think February 1st will be 2 years, so that'll be cool.
Good for you.
Nice. Yeah, congrats. Yeah, I'm coming up on 4 years of nothing but tobacco in May.
Awesome, dude. I mean, that's like you guys were saying on the Anthony one. It's like, just take it day by day. There's definitely some days it's like, man, I'd love to have a drink, but it's like, all right, I'm operating at a pretty high level, so that drink probably is not going to help me.
Exactly. I'm getting so much shit done. If I have, I quit smoking too, because even that got out of control. But, if I have a drink, it's going to lead to me spending $150 a day on other things. And I don't really want to do that anymore. I can't afford it.
No, I was like, dude, I would look at when I would do my tax at the end of the year, looking at how much like we would spend going out in Brooklyn, like on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and it was like, holy shit, this is like hundreds, like almost like $1,000 a weekend of just like booze. Yeah. It's like, man, I could have definitely paid like half my rent with that.
I think the weekend I moved to New York, Circa played Terminal 5, I think, and I didn't have any concept of how expensive shit was up here, so we met these two girls, and I was buying everyone drinks, trying to be a big shot. I think I spent like $300 or $400 in a night.
Yeah, it was
hurt.
I know that feeling, man. Like the studio in Times Square was like right down the street from this super cheap bar, so we'd spend like 5-6 hours in there, and just like at the end of the night, it's like, oh, this tab, what is happening? What are we doing?
Yeah, one night I came back. This was a long time ago, and I went to some bar in Pendle with my sister and my brother, and I was like, how much for a Pabst? They're like $1. And I was like, no, really, how much? And they're like $1. And I was like, I couldn't comprehend that.
Yeah, it's wild, man. Like going from like Pennsylvania to New York was like a shock of how much shit was. And then going from like New York to LA was like, oh, it's even more expensive. All right, cool.
So tell us, how do you get the studio up and running? How does it start? Because that sounds like a major undertaking.
Well, they kind of already had an infrastructure, and the way that particular studio in New York was, that place, Jacko, was like a shared space. So there was like 4 rooms, the like control rooms, and then 1 live room and 1 booth, and everyone would tie in. And you were just like open communication, like, hey, I'm going to use the live room Monday this time. And it was really cool because like everyone there did something different. So I got to learn something from everyone, especially like helping to manage the floor. Like I was in everyone's room. I was usually involved with everyone's projects. So like this dude, Carl Glanville, had one of the rooms, and he did a lot of U2's live stuff. So I helped do some of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame stuff with him. And it was cool to watch him work and like just be a fly on the wall and be like, all right, that's how they do it. Okay, cool. And like realizing that, you didn't need the $20,000 mic and all this expensive shit. Like he would just have like a handheld mic out and someone would do an overdub and it sounded fine. It was like, oh, all right. I just learned to kind of be like, don't be so strict with the rules and stuff from him. And then like my friend Chris was he's a composer. He had a spot there, and I learned a lot about like compassion and film scoring from him. Like it was just like, it was a cool spot that we all kind of like hung out in. It was a nice community.
it's an existing spot, existing people, existing equipment. So you just kind of work with them and get in with them, and then they're like, "Hey, if you want to record something here, you can do that." It's that type of deal.
Yeah, that's kind of how it was. Eventually, like I ended up getting one of my own rooms, and I was doing a lot of work out of there. So, like, they would sometimes like book me to like record string quartets or something. And that's what I mean. Like, we all kind of were involved in things like with each other. Like, besides the creative stuff, like I was also in charge of like, making sure the paper was ordered for the copier and like everyone handed in their rent and all that. So that was the weird thing of trying to separate that like creativity and then the like managerial responsibilities, because like people wanted to see you one way or the other. So it would sometimes cause like a little friction. Like, I'd be in a session and someone's like, "Hey, like we got to clean the bathroom." Like, all right. I'll get some. I'm recording something. So
what's the first time you worked with an artist and you were like, "Yo, this is awesome"?
Let me think.
Like someone that you knew. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm not like. It's funny because like you just get so deep in it, you kind of like put on the blinders and just go.
Yeah.
There have been times where like I've been in the middle of something and then I just took a step back. I was like, "Holy shit!" Like there was like, for instance, a couple months ago, I was in a session at Shangri-La, the spot, Rick Rubin's spot in Malibu. Mm-hmm. And I was working in like it's called the Chapel. It's like it's where Mr. Ed the horse on the TV. It used to be a stall and Mr. Ed lived there back in the day. And then they changed it into this like recording studio recently. But it's got this cool door in front where like it's all glass. It lifts up and you're just like looking out at like Malibu and like the breeze is blowing in. You got this like vintage huge Neve console. And I was like, it just like clicked like, holy shit. Like I'm getting paid to do this. Like I'm sitting here with like all these these huge artists and like they're trusting me to record whatever they're doing. Like, this is wild, And it was just like a fluke, like, "Hey, why don't you come to Shangri-La and just hang out?"
Wow.
So it was really cool. And I was like, man, like, I'm definitely like, I'm not religious or anything, but I was definitely like, I'm blessed in this respect. Like, I get to do like people's dreams or like just my like Tuesday, And it's like, it's weird. Like I take it for granted a lot. And then like, there was like there was a Kanye show where I like took a step back. And just seeing that many people focused on one man was just like, oh, wow, like, I'm in it. Like, this is wild.
Yeah. So how do you decide to make the move to LA, and when does that happen?
That was, I think I tried to move to LA like 3 years in a row. And my timeline may be off. I think it was like 27, 28, and 29, or 28, 29, 30. And like one thing after, definitely 27, because I remember like a lot of like, it was like that point when a lot of the older people in your family start passing away, and like I had a couple friends pass away. So like that prohibited me that year. And then like something popped up another year. And then finally, when I was 30, I met my girlfriend Marlene, and I was like, fuck this, man. Like, I'm moving to California. And she's like, "Oh, so, so am I." And I was like, "Oh, all right." This is like really early in our relationship. And I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." And then, I guess maybe a little under a year, we just decided, let's move out here. She was going to go to Cuba for 6 months, like right off the bat. So we decided like, let's get an apartment, move into the apartment. I'll put my stuff there. She'll go to Cuba and then we'll figure it out.
So how do you get hooked into the music world when you move out there? Because, when I moved to New York, I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to get connected and I'm going to be working with people and I'm going to be in bands and they're going to be big and it's going to be great. And none of that happened. Yeah. So, but you're working with Kanye West and Kid Cudi. I mean, tell us how these things come about.
That kind of all started in New York. Like basically I kind of track it as like when I stopped playing shows in Philly and all, I moved to New York. I really started focusing on the studio, and then just like I just worked 24/7, as much as I could. Because of that, people would just ask me to do stuff, so I would just do it. So like I said, my friend Noah was Ye's engineer, and he, we trusted each other. We've been friends at that point for, I don't know, probably like 5-6 years, maybe longer. Mm-hmm. And I would just start doing sessions with them on like a part-time basis, I guess. And then through that, that's how I met everyone that I work with today. And then around 30, it was just like, we all started seeing New York change. There was like that mass exodus of New York like 6-7 years ago, which I was definitely part of. And it just happened that everyone moved out here. And I did like my first year, I kind of meandered around California doing whatever. And then it was like, I started doing sessions again, and it just kind of took off. And my time in California has definitely been the blurriest because of just the speed of things, and like it's just project after project after project, and it's just like a piggyback thing. Someone sees that I worked on this, and then they pick me up for something else, and then someone sees that and picks me up for something else. And that's kind of how like me and Cudi started working together. I was working with Noah. I was working kind of as like Noah's second engineer, assistant engineer. We started doing Kids See Ghost. And it just made sense. Like I had worked with Cudi years before on a song called Creepers. So, Noah kept recording Ye. I started recording Cudi. And then towards like the middle of that, it just kind of turned into like, okay, now you want to go on tour with us? Like, all right, yeah. And then I had to make a decision. Like, do I stay with good music in whatever capacity I was, or do I move over and focus totally on Cudi? Because doing both was just like running me so thin. Like it was just like no rest.
Yeah, you're burning the candle at both ends at that point.
Yeah. At with like blowtorches. It was just killing me. Not to say that like it was a bad job. Like I loved it. And, like I got to experience all kinds of like wild stuff that I would never see anywhere. But yeah, like eventually I decided, I was like, I'm gonna stay over here with Cudi. And since then, like we just been rocking and rolling, and it's like a dream job, man. It's like going to work and just like jamming and having fun and making stupid jokes every day.
Yeah, one of the most fun weekends of my life was recording my album, I think 3 years ago with Rich Taver, actually.
Oh, right.
And, we got there, we set up, we're listening to Lil Wayne, the Carter 4, and we're just joking around and having a good time. That's probably like your life. That's your job. You show up, everyone's listening to stuff, working on stuff, hanging out. I mean, there's work involved too, of course, but that's probably like every week for you.
Yeah, pretty much. Like where I had the awful internet connection, that was my studio, my home studio, which is a separate building. So when I'm not in like a large format studio, I'm out there. But yeah, it's like, man, I get to play music all day. Like I don't know what else to say. It's awesome. It's like literally what I wanted to do since I was a kid. And it's very unique that like me and my best friend of like 15, 16, 17 years get to do it together. He's literally the only other person that can understand what I'm going through. Like I'm like, oh man, this happened today. He's like, yeah, I know. I remember when that happened to me. So it's also good to have someone to vent to, because California is like, the other thing about California is it's like a total mind fuck. Like the psychological mess that California is nuts.
Compare living in Southern California to living in New York City. How is it different?
New York is like a grind, but like it's very similar to Philly, so I was comfortable there. It's like, it's kind of like very face value. Like you say what you mean in New York, and if you're not into something, you're not into it. And like out here, it's kind of like a lot of people are really flimsy, it's like, oh yeah, man, it's cool. Like, oh yeah, you're the greatest. And it's like a lot of like ass kissing. And I was like, this is not me. That's kind of the reason why I live in Long Beach and not LA. It's just like LA is very plastic, I guess you could say, and like out in Long Beach, it's like, what's up. Like people let you know what's going on.
Yeah, I wouldn't hack it in LA. I think I'm a little too honest for that. So we were actually going to have you on the show last month, but you were in the thick of it, working with Kid Cudi on Man on the Moon 3, The Chosen.
That's me. Yep, we did it, and it's out.
Boy, there are some real bangers on that.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yes.
Honestly, like the music that was mostly handled by these dudes. Take a Day Trip and Cudi's like main producer, Dot the Genius. And like I said, it started as a jam session. It was just like, let's go and jam, make some tunes. And then, 3 songs in, it was like, oh, I think we're on to something. Like, this isn't just jamming. Okay, cool. And then we just kind of put it in a high gear and just like banged it out every day,
So you're there with everybody, you're working on it. Walk us through some of what you're doing and like what's going on.
Honestly, it's just like have everything on and ready to go. Like the way Like my whole thing with engineering is like I kind of don't want to. I don't even want you to really notice me. Like I just want you to do your thing, like feel comfortable. So yeah, I just have every channel open. I'm recording everything and just taking a lot of notes. Like when something's cool, if someone says something, just keep things. So then when they're like, "Oh, what was that part that we played?" Like 30 minutes into it, I could just like quickly bring it up, and then if it's something to jam on, like chop it up and like just keep going with it. Yeah, it's kind of just like anticipating what someone's going to do before they do it. That's the big deal. Like there's not like a secret art to recording. It's just like hit record and make sure everything works and make sure you don't lose that vibe. It's like with the way things are, like things will sound good. Like I've recorded on like in studios that are $3,000, $4,000 a day, and then I've recorded in bedrooms. And at the end of the day, it's like, where did the good song come from? It doesn't matter as long as it's a good song.
That's awesome.
I like that. Yeah. So are you like giving direction too? Like if someone's flat or fucking up, do you like stop and say, no, do it again?
I'm like a little more lenient than that, but like I kind of like let people do whatever they're doing. And if there's something that's like really off, I'll just say like, oh, why don't we hit that again? Like let's give that another shot. But like for the most part, like I like capturing the flaws of things. Like that's what makes shit like real. Like it's funny, like we keep talking about This Day Forward and all, but on I think it's the first CD, there's like a part where Colin hits a cymbal and like a guitar's playing like for the next part, but you hear his sticks break and then fall on the floor. And for some reason, that's just like one of these things that always stuck out to me. Like, whoa, that was like in the moment that really happened. Someone didn't edit that out, but that just like made it cool. Or like, like I just like hearing the flaws and things to know like that's a real performance. That's what's going to touch me, not like a perfectly tuned vocal.
Exactly. I like to hear like real moments, behind the scenes stuff. That's why like in the beginning of our podcast, sometimes I'll drop in like the bloopers or the ridiculous conversations we have with, with people.
There was one where like the audio dropped out during Jim Ward from Sparta and At the Drive-In, and it was only Keith's audio. So it was just Jim and I talking about skateboarding for a second. And then it's just me being like, oh no. Oh no. Keith is very particular about this, and all the text he sent me was, my computer just crashed, I'll be back as soon as possible. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, I get crazy. I think I'd make a great engineer because I'm fucking nuts and I'm like really particular too.
Yeah, being neurotic and like compulsive is a big part of it, Like I literally like write timestamps down. Like you can ask me at what hour we did something like 2 years ago, and like there's a 90% chance I can look it up and tell you.
Jesus.
I love that.
Yeah. It's like it took a long time to get this system going, but there's like a whole number system. It's like that's something the dude Carl Glanville taught me. It's just like his whole labeling system. Like it just helps not disturb the creative flow if you got like one nerd in the room taking care of stuff.
See, I love that. I'm into all that shit now. Organization, classification. I've got all that down. Yeah. I could develop my own numbering system. That sounds fun to me.
Yeah, I mean, you got Audacity. Just like do it.
Yeah. Well, that's my project for 2021 is to buy a Mac and some type of recording program and get going on to be able to do basic home recording.
Yeah. I mean, it's great, man. Like, I love it.
Oh, yes. That's going to happen. And then all three of us are going to start the next great American metal band.
Yeah, man. Like we'll take Tommy back to Sam Ash. Like that was something weird. That was something we were talking about when he was down. That like my mom drove us to Sam Ash when we were teenagers so that he could buy a 6-string bass to be like. How long were you even in that band for? Like,
oh my god, a month, maybe.
Yeah, not long at all. Like, dude is super dedicated, buys a 6-string bass, like joins a band with me, and then it's just like, I don't think this is quite my thing.
I couldn't.
Did I buy the bass off you? I forget. Because I remember buying the same bass at some point because I was like, I need a 6-string bass now.
The funny story was, though, is remember I brought a bunch of stuff in. I traded it in, and I had cash. But I had enough cash to basically just buy the bass. And we were about to walk out, and your mom was like, where's the case? And I was like, oh, I'm not getting one. I don't have enough money. And your mom bought me a case. She was like, how are you going to get in the car? And I was like, I'm just going to hold it. And she's like, you just spent all this money on it. You're not going to buy another like $45 soft shell case. Like, you just got to get a case for it, buddy. And I was like, I just don't have any money. And your mom was like, I'll just get it. Just get over there. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, she's awesome, man. Like, it's so funny. Like, they were like horrified by the music I'd play, but then like would always like help out. Like, oh, you need a drum machine? Cool, here's a drum machine. That music is awful, but here's the drum machine.
Wow. Okay, so now you've worked with Kanye West, Kid Cudi. Are you ever in a session and like someone really famous comes in and then you gotta like play it cool?
I haven't had that. You know what? I was just talking to someone about like being starstruck, and I've never really been starstruck except for once very early on. I used to love the show Scrubs, and I couldn't even tell you this guy's name, but like the one director, like a director of a couple of the episodes, came in to the studio I ran in Manhattan, and I like lost my shit. I was like, "Oh my god, I love Scrubs! You did this episode!" Oh, and it's like now I can't even remember his name, but that's the only time I got starstruck. You know, I think if I ever was to meet Prince, I would have probably like lost my shit. But that that day never came, unfortunately.
Is there anyone living that you might be starstruck by?
I'm not sure, to be honest. Like, I don't know, because like I'm just such a like at this point I'm like, man, you're just a person. Like, it doesn't matter. Like I've seen so much. Like, it sounds super conceited, but it's like I don't think I'd ever be starstruck by someone at this point. Like, definitely two people. I was like, one person I was super excited about was I had a session with Busta Rhymes once, and he probably does not remember this at all, but like that was pretty cool to like see him, and he like gave me a pat on the back, and I thought his hand went through my chest. But
he's a big,
it was like
he's a big dude.
Dude, he is, and he is strong, very strong.
He played Division I football, right? I think he played for fucking like Louisiana or something like that. He was like a fucking like a running back or something like that. He's a fucking monster. He's a big dude because he's like, he's definitely like over 6 foot, but he's fucking wide as fuck.
You know, he is awesome. He somewhere around 2010. Lil Wayne put out a mixtape. I think it was called Young Money Playboy or something like that. And Busta Rhymes just has this insane verse on it. It's like Busta Rhymes, Lil Wayne, I think Chris Brown is on it. But Busta Rhymes just freaking kills it.
Yeah, I mean, he's got this. The thing we brought up at that session was this song, 60 Second Assassins, that was like, it's like him, one of the dudes from Bone Thugs, Jazzo, and Twista. And it's like everyone raps fast, like super fast. So it's like the like technical death metal of rap. and I think that's why I was into it. It was like, oh dude, these dudes are saying like 600 words a second. Like, this is insane.
Oh, I would love that. Now, see, Bone Thugs I would be starstruck by. Come on, I Tried. That's one of the fucking best songs ever.
I mean, you know, when I hang out with one of them, I think one of them's on Sumerian Records.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
really?
I think like I'll have to look that up, but I remember seeing like one of the Bone Thugs was on Sumerian. I was like, whoa, all right. It's kind of like Smashing Pumpkins being on, I think, what are they on, Rise or something?
Oh, really?
Yeah, like they signed to one of these like one of these like metal indie labels. I was very surprised.
But yeah, no, that was one of those ones. That was like when you were like little, and I remember what the hell was it? So my brother-in-law was kind of the one that got me into like some like punk rock and metal and stuff like that. And I remember him giving me Slayer, and I looked at the back, and it was like, "This is on Def Jam." I was like, "What?" It's not like the fucking same label as like Beastie Boys. Like, what's happening right here? Like,
yeah, man. I mean, that's my dream. I was like, you know, I think that's why I was always into like bands like Candiria and Cypher. It was like that marriage of like rock and hip hop, you know?
Bill, you and I have definitely connected on Candiria. I love them. They are just awesome.
Top 5, like insane. Like so much of my guitar playing was just like pulled from John, and like those dudes are on a whole other level.
I loved it. That was one of the first times I heard somebody play drums and went, I don't understand what they're doing. Like that guy's such a great drummer, but there was, you know, like the time changes, and it was just like, and then there would just go like into a complete like jazz fusion part, and I'm like, what is happening right now?
Yeah,
Doug was the one who gave me Surrealistic Madness. I think I was in like 10th or 11th grade.
And that album, when I was younger, I used to say as a joke, like, there should be a hardcore band where it's just breakdowns. Like, just Surrealistic Madness, the first song on that record is just breakdown after breakdown after breakdown, and it's fucking awesome.
Yeah, man. I wish I could see Candiria play again, right? Like, the last time I saw them play was out here, and I think I went with Vadim. I forget, like, me and Marlene went, but I think Vadim was there, or at least he told me they were playing. And I was just like so psyched. Like I'm more psyched to like see them, you know, like that's when I geek out. Like, oh my God, like you guys were, I wish I was playing like Hellfest and everything like you were, you know?
Yeah. Like I geek out over bands we liked when we were younger. Like we talked to Nathan Ellis, who was in Colask and is in Casket Lottery. I mean, Jim Ward from Sparta, like people like that. I'm like, you know, there's a whole, I always dedicate at least 2 minutes to like telling them how much I love them in the show.
Yeah. I mean, I was like, I met Mike, the bass player from Candiria, through Vadim. Like Vadim played something.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Like Vadim, I did something with him. He played it for Hornbrook. And I guess Hornbrook told Mike, and somehow me and Mike got connected. And I was just like, I remember I was in Connecticut recording a record. I was like, whoa, like the bass player Candiria just sent me a message like, oh my God, you know, like, and that's when I get geeked out. I was just like, and then, you know, we kept in touch like through the years, like sparsely, but it's still cool to like, know I can like hit that dude up.
Yeah. Mike is very nice. I like him. And I saw Candiria, I guess it was like 2018. And you know, I saw these like really threatening guys standing up front, and I was like, oh man, shit's gonna go down. They're like looking around, right? And then as soon as Candiria starts, like all 5 of them pull out cell phones and start filming. And I was like, oh, that's fucking awesome.
Oh man, that's the 2020s versus like when we were coming up. Like I'd just be like spin kicking everyone.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's what I was expecting. And I was like, oh man, there's no more like good pits anymore. It's not like Philly in the late 90s. I saw one of the biggest pits break out for the second breakdown in mathematics.
Oh my God.
Ever since, like, I just keep going back and listening to that song, and I was like, man, it's so fucking good.
Oh my God. Dude, even the drum part on that part is fucking insane.
It's like I never know where the snare is going to hit, and I'm just like, oh. But like, yeah, man, those dudes, like, they were definitely, like, them, Dillinger, Meshuggah, like, they were, like, everything I would, like, just base my stuff off of.
Yeah. Oh man, I love that really groovy, like not new metal-y, hardcore metal stuff. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, Bill, this is one of those things that you have a everlasting impression on me, and it was I don't know why I made this decision until afterwards, and I was like, oh shit, that's right. I went to Bill's house, and he was showing me a couple guitars that he had, and you know what? No, maybe we were rehearsing. And you showed me a guitar that you had, and it was a Saber body.
Okay. I still have it.
It was like a metallic blue, I think. Was that the?
That was my RG that got stolen out of my Jeep Cherokee.
Oh, okay.
And then I bought a Saber to replace that. But yeah, like I still have the Saber. I still play it. I love it.
So I bought a Ibanez S2120X, like with the antique violin finish, and I remember the guy was like, we have this in a Saber body, and I was like, yes I'm getting this. And then I was like, why am I obsessed with this? And I got home and I was like, oh, because Sullivan's got one. That's how I remember seeing it, being like, how is that guitar so thin? That's fucking insane. And it's 20 plus years later, I still have this thing still sitting in my house. Like awesome. I saw all my other guitars that I sold. I kept that one.
I think all the like my longest running guitars are probably like my 2 Ibanez's.
They're just nice guitars, and they play so well. That one has like the kill switch on it, and did that have the two jacks on it? Yeah, it has the 2 dual inputs, and the piezo switch, and like the artificial acoustic thing. It's a fucking great guitar, but it's also one of those ones that like I see other people playing it, and they're like, you know, playing like Dragon Force and stuff on it. And I'm like,
that's a total Dragon Force guitar, like all that progressive like Viking metal stuff.
Yeah, I see people playing that. It's like, oh, these guys are like real players, and then I get on it, I'm like, chung, chung, chug a chug 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 chug. It's like I feel like such a loser having it.
I'm so bad at guitar now. Like I had to like sit there. It's funny because I have like fucking like 10 guitars. I had to like sit there and like figure stuff out now. Like, and I just think like, man, when I was 15, I could just fucking rip. Like, what happened?
Yeah, I have not played guitar since 2018, I think. And oh wait, no, I'm sorry. I had a band practice in February, and that went okay. And I think I've got another one next week, so I'm gonna have to get my shit together.
Yeah, I mean, like I still play guitar every day. It's wild, but I'm just not as good. It's unfortunate, but like, and it's funny. Like I had friends, like when I had all the pointy guitars, like, man, when you're 20, you're gonna get an SG, and like, sure enough, like I got an SG. And like when you're 30, you're gonna get a Strat, and like, sure enough, I got a Strat. Now I'm playing like a lot of clean stuff. It's like everyone just mellowed out.
Oh yeah, big time. I know I have.
Yeah.
Plus, I've got a family now, so it's like I can't play Meshuggah necessarily or Candiria in the car, so I gotta find something more chill.
Yeah, that's another plus. Is like I drive alone a lot, so I just get to rock out. It's awesome.
That's my favorite thing in the world. Like when I would be on a work trip, and I would have a long drive, driving and listening to a podcast or blasting music is one of my favorite things in the world.
Yeah, it's like, well, that's also like the benefit of having a studio at home. It's like I love going in there and just blasting shit. It's just like get it out at the end of the day, or like play some drums along with some Sepultura or something, just to like get the aggression out.
Oh yes, that's like a beautiful workout / meditation.
It is. It's funny, man. Like it's wild that like metal's so aggressive and all, but like generally the dudes are super chill, and like the music like kind of calms people down. Like it's cool.
Yeah, like I'll walk down the street and I'll be blasting All Else Failed or something, and I'll feel the electricity running through my body and imagine hurtling myself into somebody, and I'm like, I feel rejuvenated. Yeah, it's beautiful. Man.
I love and it's so funny. Like not a lot of people know All Else Failed out here, and like every time I play them, they're like, these dudes sound like crazy, like they're just running around. I was like, yeah, that's pretty much what they do. Like
they are.
They're like flipping off shit and punching people, and I was like, it's pretty cool. And I think the one dude's a cop now.
He lives in Southern California somewhere, I think.
Oh, Luke does live out here.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, man. That's awesome.
Whenever somebody talks to me at like work and they are like, what are like shows like? Because, I've posted things from like, this is hardcore and stuff. And I'm like, that's, it's a little bit more tame than what it used to be. And they're like, what did it used to be? And I'm like, I always open with, I show them the clip from All Else Failed playing Palanca Park, and Luke gets up on top of the PA and he starts reciting lines from Rambo, and he goes, it might be over, Johnny. Just might be over.
The flip. Yeah.
And he does a backflip into the crowd. Chris Penny's playing, like the drummer couldn't make it, and Chris filled in from Dillinger. Like it was fucking insane. People are like, how did people not get hurt? I'm like, oh, people got hurt.
A lot of people got hurt.
Oh my God. Like in the bathroom, like would literally you would walk into the bathroom, like to go to the bathroom, and like there would be 3 or 4 people in the mirror washing blood off their face, like broken noses, somebody got their cheek split, like, that kind of shit, like was every day. Like that was every show. And they were like, why?
I was like, I don't know. It's just how it happened, man. Like I remember, like Luke would always like grab, when I was in Heidnik, we'd play with All Else Failed sometimes. And, like Luke would like wrestle with John Williams, like the singer from Heidnik, and like they'd be like beating each other up. It was like in the middle of a show. It's like, oh, okay, no, they're friends. It's cool. Like,
you were in Heidnik.
But I was briefly in. Yeah, this is like where the band whore thing when I was in Philly. Like I was in Heidnik. Like maybe a year. It was like right after Nothing came out and right before the songs, the Brotherly Love thing came out. Yeah, so that was cool. I really enjoyed that band. Like that was really fun. Like my parents were like horrified because my dad grew up in Philly, so he knew who Gary Heidnik was.
Oh yeah.
And they were just like, and then I think Max came to my parents' house, and my mom was just like, this dude has way too many tattoos. I don't like this at all. But I think she came around to him. Like he was such a rad dude.
And we lost him a couple years ago, right?
Yeah, unfortunately. So like, and that was like, I felt awful. Like it's like I feel like I always start talking to someone and then get involved with a project like out here and then lose touch, and then I find out they pass away, a year later, and it's like, oh man, like was that project worth it? Like that's like the downside about being out here is like you give up so much of your personal life, and like that's just kind of how it is though.
And you know what? In your position, I would be okay with that, because to me the work is everything. Like whatever I'm creating, it gives me most of the happiness in my life, whether it's the podcast or the band a few years ago or whatever project I'm involved in. I mean, that's everything.
Yeah. I mean, that's every project I go into. It's just like, I try to put everything aside as I can and just like completely focus on it and like dive 110% into it. Because it really shows. Like I definitely know the records that I played on where like I was like half-assing it, and like I hear it and I'm just not proud of those records. And I'm just like glad that they're smaller records. It's not such a negative mark on my my career.
So you've worked with Kanye too.
Yes. Yeah.
What's he like?
Let's talk about that.
Honestly, dude, like I was in a much different position than like most of the world sees him, and like Noah was much closer with him and part of his everyday. But I mean, like I learned a ton. Like I learned, like the one thing you can't deny is like the dude was like the best at what he does. And just like watching him just chop stuff and the memory on him, he'll like remember shit from like what was that beat from that email like months ago, and he'll like be within like half a BPM of the tempo, and it's like, how did you remember that? Like
there's an old clip of him showing, I think it's a painting that he actually did. He has that synesthesia thing where when he thinks about music, he actually sees color and like wavelengths. Like he thinks about music in a very different way. And I remember the first time I heard Through the Wire, and I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, it's such a great sample. But it's him, like, like the whole story behind it is he got into that car crash, right? And his jaw was wired shut, and that's why he's literally like doing the entire track with his
spin through the wire.
His jaw is fucking wired shut. And it's like, it's just such a great song and so personal. And I was like, damn, dude, this guy is unbelievable. And then I had a roommate in college who he got College Dropout, and I remember he played it over and over and over again, to the point where like I know some of the lyrics to those songs just through sheer repetition. It wasn't like I put that record on all the time. It was just like my roommate would not turn it off. There's a track on there called Family Business, which is such a fucking great track, but it's like, it's one of those things where he took a really small piano sample and looped it, and it just works perfectly. Like it's one of those things where it's just, as soon as you hear it, it's like when I used to hear Jedi Mind Tricks and I would hear them use like orchestral or operatic samples, and it was just like a small part of it, but you would hear it and you would go, that is amazing. I could listen to just the beat. Like I could listen to this instrumental and be totally fine with it. Like that type of, I don't know what you call that, like composition like that. It's beyond me, because essentially like what people do is they take things and they reorganize it in a way that makes something completely new. And it's just, I'm always in awe when people can do shit like that.
Yeah. I mean, he's the master of the chop. It's just like, and it's like, it's not something like a certain piece of gear is going to do. It's just like, that's how he sees it or hears it. And I mean, I don't know how he does it. Like, it's just like he messes around with it for a second, then all of a sudden it's like, oh, that's something. Like, that's something big, And I think the one thing like I definitely learned from like working with him was just like how hard I can go. Like I was part of the team when he did the 5 albums in 5 weeks. And that was just like, that was so grueling. Like, but like, I don't know. Like there's parts of the record like of Kids See Ghosts I don't really remember recording, but I definitely did record it. And it was just like, you kind of like zone out and black out, and you're so focused that like, you leave like your body, I guess. But yeah, it was a tough 5. I only took 4 weeks. I think I didn't do the last record. But it was like, still 4 weeks every day, like all day, flying around, going to different studios. It was intense. And if you would ask me, like, could you do this? I'd probably be like, no. But just because I was kind of thrown into it, it was like, all right, I definitely got pushed to do that. And now I know it is possible. So,
yeah, like I have moments like that at work where, you have to work 7 a.m. till 10 at night. And if I'm sitting here right now thinking about it, I would tell you, like, no, I can't do it. Like, I can't do it. But once you're in it and you're doing it, you do it.
Oh, yeah. It's just like, it's insane. It's like, I don't even know any stories to tell you at that point of that, like, session, just because things were going so fast. And it was just like, do. Like, we were literally finishing the record while driving to the release party. Like, it was that tight. It was insane.
Yeah, because when you were working on the Kid Cudi album, you're like, oh, we're working on it till X date. And then I saw a post on Brooklyn Vegan like a week later, like, hey, the album's out now. It's like, oh shit, they push it to the line.
Yeah, I mean, like, that's kind of how a lot of stuff goes now. It's just like, because of technology, like, at least like back in the day when you had like reels of tape and shit, like you had to get stuff in like a month in advance, and like the pressing plants had to press it up. Now it's just like you upload it and you're done.
Exactly.
So it's like you do have that extra like time to get stuff done. Like, even myself with like my smaller projects, like, it just happens to, like, you're going through it and there's always that one thing you want to change, and you change it and you just keep going to the deadline. Just got to do what you got to do and make the song what it's supposed to be.
So that's got to be a lot of pressure. You're rolling with Kanye West and Entourage, going from studio to studio, and you're on duty, you're recording, you're working 5 albums in 5 weeks. Do you ever think like, oh fuck, like they're gonna figure out I don't know what I'm doing, or I'm gonna fuck something up, or something's gonna go wrong?
Yeah, I mean, like, I think that's part of like my anxiety and all the like mental crap, but and that's part of what makes me do what I do, because like I'm worried about that stuff. Like, all through closing up the Man on the Moon 3, it was like, I remember I had this dream that like I forgot to hand in the record, and it was like it turned back into that classic like dream where you have when you're a kid, you forgot that one class the whole semester and now you got to do the final. And it was just like, I woke up in like a cold sweat, like, oh my God, like, okay, I didn't forget to turn in the record. It's okay.
Isn't that so funny that our brain does that? That happened to me. I took this really hard certification exam today, and Sunday night, I had a dream that I was late. I didn't log in to take the exam on time. My desk was caked in this stuff that I didn't clean off, and it's just like that. You're late for high school and you don't have your homework dream again.
Yeah, it was the worst, man. Like, I was so terrified, and I was like, oh my God, thank God. So like when release day came out, I was just like so relieved that it was completed and like everyone liked it. So it was great.
Yeah, it's a great album, folks. If you haven't checked it out yet, Kid Cudi, Man on the Moon 3, The Chosen. I finally got to sit down today, now that this exam bullshit is over, and catch up with some music. This is one of the records I listen to, and it's awesome, and I recommend it.
Thank you.
Bill, what's your thoughts on the what's your new thoughts on the Playboy Cardi?
I worked on it. I did. What did I do? What was the song called? Metamorphosis. So it's a track that Cudi's on. So yeah. So it was cool. It was like, and that was, we just kind of did it guerrilla style. Like, it just popped off. It was like, let's do the song. Like, all right. I just like ran over there. That one, I live kind of far from him, so I think someone else did record it, and then I touched up the mix, and then like, it's out now. It's like, I didn't even realize it, like, it was out on Christmas. I was like, oh my God, like, this is out. All right.
Is there like this is right where my mind goes. Is there like an underground LA life you could get involved with? Like, cars driving to secret clubs and drugs and after hours type stuff?
Dude, I wish. I was looking. I've looked for it, like, I always, like, everywhere I go, I look for like, like some semblance of like the scene that we came up in, like, oh, it's got to be in New York. And like, I never found it in New York. It was like, and out here, it's like, I found one place down the street. Actually, my girlfriend found it down the street from where we live, that I don't even know what this building is. It looks like an abandoned parking lot and like a boarded up building. But like, she was going down the street and she called me up. She's like, you should come down here. I came down. It's like this metal flea market with like metal bands playing inside. I was like, where did this come from? Like, I'm like on the border of Long Beach and Compton. I did not think this like existed here.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, it was like super old vintage, like metal, like actual metal tees that weren't like $300 at like some LA thrift store. It was like, so
Dude,
rad.
I follow a couple people on Instagram and they sell like vintage t-shirts, and I'm like, oh, that's really cool, because like there was a couple times where I was looking for like older things. Like I wanted what before these even came out, but like the Disembodied what do you call that? Repressed some of their old t-shirts and sweatshirts and stuff. I was looking for one of the original ones, and I was like, dude, I want this one. It had the old Alien logo from If God Only Knew the Rest Were Dead. And I found a bunch of these things on Instagram, and I started being like, oh, this is great. And I remember I had an Emperor shirt that was a long sleeve, and it had the album work from Anthems to Welcome at Dusk. And I was like, dude, I want that. And I went on their website, $285.
Oh my God, dude. Oh my God. I see so many shirts that like I had in middle school and like maybe the beginning of high school. They're like astronomically priced. I'm like, what? Like I got that like out of the back of a magazine for like $25. Like, oh.
So Bill, tell us what's coming up and what we should check out that you're involved with.
Coming up, I'm doing something with Vadim, I think in like 2 weeks. I don't know what it is. So he's gonna send me some stuff, so that'll be cool. And then, like I was saying, Upon Creation, we have a EP coming out January 22nd. That's my my death metal band with my friend John Sands and Johannes Habtu. So that'll be out, and that's cool. And I don't know, man, like, just looking forward to 2021 being chill, better than 2020, man. Hopefully these vaccines don't like turn us into World War Z or anything.
I really hope not. And I hope we get back to some semblance of live music and regular life, because I really miss it. And I'm ready to go back.
Yeah, definitely, man. Like, as much as I love being home and in the studio, like, I got to break out. And of course, I think yesterday our stay-at-home orders were extended indefinitely. So that's that's exciting,
Yeah.
This is the fucked up part. Is like everyone's being told to stay home. Entertainment industry is considered essential workers. I don't know. I don't know why. Like, I'm definitely like, I get it. Like, it's great that I have this job, but like, am I really essential? Like, I don't think so.
Well, Bill, I think you're essential, and I just want to say thanks for coming on the show. It was really good to get to catch up and hear about some of your history, because I didn't know a lot of it.
Yeah, man. Like, I'm such a fan of this podcast. Like, anytime like I'm like homesick, I'll just like listen to it and hear these like Bucks County Philly accents and just feel super awesome. Like, yes, there's my people. I love it. Yeah, man. It's just like so good that like you guys are doing this and like bringing, like, I feel like there was something special back then, and everyone's like, you live in the past. Like, nah, man. Like, I've never seen anything like the scene we grew up in, and I wish more people knew about it. So it's great that you guys are telling people about it.
There you have it, folks. Bill Sullivan. That was a very fun, very awesome discussion. It was great to catch up with Bill, because I haven't seen him since me and him and Vadim hung out in LA, I think a year or two ago. And I didn't hang out with him a lot when we were young, so I didn't know a lot of his story. I didn't know a lot of the bands he was in. So I always love getting that portion of the story as well.
Yeah, dude, he's always been such a solid dude, and he's such a nice person. And yes, I think a lot of what he glosses over in the at least when we were talking to him is like, he's a fucking machine. He works super fucking hard, and he's like, oh, I was just in the right place at the right time. It's like, Bill busts his ass, dude. Bill works hard. There's a reason people keep hiring him, and it's not because of luck. Like,
yeah, look who he's working with.
Yeah, dude, he's no joke. And again, unbelievable that like all of these people that we have on this podcast came from like 40 miles, like not even like the 30 miles away from each other. Bill lived in the same neighborhood as you. What, 4 blocks away, 5 blocks away? Like,
yeah,
it's fucking unbelievable. Like, you could have walked to his house.
He said the Torn Apart show at my parents' house, that's the only show he's ever walked to.
Well, and then that's the other thing. I didn't bring this up, but you guys never went to, despite living in the same neighborhood, you guys never went to school together, right? Because you went to Catholic school and he went to public school. I
think so. Yeah. We should have hung out. It just never happened. You know, there was too many people. And he lived in the same neighborhood as me. We almost started a band, actually. Me and him and Chris Rogie. We didn't almost start a band. We said we were going to, and then we never did.
I've been in a lot of those conversations before.
Yeah.
And it's always me that bails. I'm never the person that's like, yeah, you know what, we should do that. Like, I get super excited when someone gets excited about stuff. But then there's also a part of me that's like, in the back of my head, I know, like, I'm never going to do this.
And I was always the person clinging on and trying to make it happen no matter what. And it just never happened.
I don't know. I think I lost that passion for, I think a lot of it came down to kind of like what you said with like, you know, with your last band is like the coordination of getting everybody in the same place at the same time. And working with people that you can work with. I mean, literally, like it comes to like, are these people functional? Like there's sometimes like, you know, people would treat band practice as like party time or like, hey, let's hang out. It's like, no, I have to be at work in 3 hours. Like,
if I can get a band working how Plaque Marks does it, like they send parts back and forth online and they show up and everyone just has to know how to play shit. And then they rehearse, and then they go out and do it. If I can get a situation like that going, I'll be in a band again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everyone just has to know what they're doing. They have to make it very easy for me.
I don't know. I mean, that's one of the other things is like with being in a band with other people, you consistently have to like do that like negotiation of like being in social aspects with them as well. And it's always kind of like, I don't do well with that, especially if someone's like a pain in the ass. Like, yeah. I can't help but like, I can't hold my tongue and be like, look, I'm not going to not address this. You're a dick. Like, stop being a dick or stop showing up drunk.
Remember how we were talking about our top 5 Pennsylvania bands?
Yes.
Matt S., our friend, sent us his. Are you ready for his list?
Yeah, let's go.
Number 1, Blacklisted.
Oh, shit, yeah.
Number 2, All Else Failed. Yes.
There we go.
Number 3, Ink and Dagger. We love them, of course. Number 4, Turmoil. Number 5, Mother of Mercy. I don't think I've ever heard Mother of Mercy. Are they good?
I don't know. I've never heard them either.
I want to check them out.
Yeah, because I've never heard them. Yeah. It's one of those things that, like, there were so many bands. Actually, you know, it's really funny. That whole pile of show flyers that Doug dropped off, I kind of have been slowly but surely like organizing them and kind of putting them in different piles and kind of just putting them in folders to be like, all right, these are ones we've already used. These are ones we haven't used. And it's really funny. It's just to see those lineups and you're like, there's one that's it's like Punishment, Kensington, New Jersey Bloodline, and something else. And I'm like, that had to have been the fucking scariest show. Like, just show up and it's just every dude is fucking rocking some type of jersey, mesh shorts, Air Maxes. Like, you're getting kicked in the fucking face at that show.
I'd be like, standing way in the back for that one.
It doesn't matter. They would fucking run over the crowd. They didn't like. Their object was to cause as much damage as quickly as possible. Like,
I'd be like working the door. I'd be helping work the door.
Oh, I would do the stage potato thing if I was friends with anybody. Like, let me just stay on the stage. They can't get up there. Oh, they can? Fuck. There was something else that we were going to bring up, and it was I wanted to bring it up. I don't know if you want to even talk about this, but it was funny. It was like I was texting with Ed Hewitt, the dude that's like a fan of the show, and he always is constantly giving us like feedback. It's awesome. But he's like, I was going through my Instagram and it said, it was like Mikey Miles. And it was like Ed Hewitt. I was like, oh shit, Ed follows him now because of the podcast. And I was like, okay, let me just give you a little backstory on why we follow this dude. He's like, his first question was, who's Sarah? I was like, hilarious. Let me just explain this. She sold him Herbalife and he was a stalker.
Yeah, he's like, what the hell do you guys have me following? I was like, just enjoy the ride.
Yeah, just every like wet spinach and fucking getting fired all the time and workout videos. Just it's a fucking, just strap in. Yeah. Prepare yourself for the worst.
Well, I just want to make this short because I'm fucking beat, dude. I'm like still reeling from that exam and I'm exhausted and I'm fucking tired of doing things. So we need more Apple Podcast reviews. Yes. If you like the show and you listen to us, subscribe to us and throw us a review on Apple Podcasts and we'll read it on the air. Good, bad, doesn't matter. Send it to us.
Yeah, dude. Here's the best thing is like, even if you're like, telling us like, I'm thinking like last week's thing, like, hey, we really like that impression that Keith did of that Tool song. That was funny.
Yeah.
And more of that. Okay, cool. We'll prep it. Like if you like it, we'll do more of it.
All right. That's it. Thanks everybody for listening. And until next time.